Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, back by popular demand. I am so excited to bring back one of my really good friends. She was just on the podcast talking about an incredible team. If you guys missed that episode, be sure to go snag it. I'm excited to bring back Dr. Brielle Renz. And today, we're going to spin the topic a little bit because she does a really incredible procedure in her practice. I've been to her practice, I think 3-4 times. It's been quite a few times over the course of the years, and I've watched her successfully implement tongue and lip ties in her practice. And I'm so excited to pick her brain to find out more about it because I've seen it, but I haven't really dug into it. And I think if there's anybody else out there who's so talented at what she does, it's Dr. Renz. So I'm so excited to welcome her back. So Brielle, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me again. This is fun.
Of course.
I'm going to become a podcaster.
You are. You're already there.
Is that the verbiage?
That is the verbiage. You have entered the world of being a podcaster in the podcasting land. So welcome. Welcome to being a podcaster.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah, yes, it should be. And I'm going to do a shout out to your husband because he's the whole reason that you and I even got to know each other. If you guys didn't hear last time, I met Dr. Renz through her husband, who's a podcast junkie. And it was really fun because your podcast actually released yesterday. We are pre-recording these, so of course there'll be a few episodes before. But in real time, your podcast released yesterday, and it was so cute of your husband. He was like fangirling over you of how excited he was that you were on the podcast, and I loved it because you did such a good job on it. So
yeah, he was for some reason just so proud of me, which is so sweet. Also, maybe he was kind of fangirling that I did a podcast with you because he actually knew of you before I knew of you. So he was like, "Oh my gosh, look at they're like it's happening." Who knows? We don't know. I
don't know, but I do love it. And I think your husband's a rock star. So thank you, Josh, doing a shout out to you for connecting Brielle and myself. So, and Dr. Renz, of course, thanks I know you're busy. You just finished patients all day and then we just giggled for like 15 minutes before we podcast. So thank you for taking time as always, taking time away from your cute family to give value back to the dental community. So thank you.
Oh, of course. I mean, we're all busy, right? And that's nothing new. You're busy too. So it's fun doing it.
It is fun. So let's talk tongue and lip ties because this is a huge passion of yours. And honestly, I'm super curious because I don't know this. So this is going to be a fun episode. I'm genuinely asking questions. Not that I don't always genuinely ask questions, but sometimes I ask questions that I already know. So today I'm super excited to ask, how did you even get into tongue and lip ties? And also kind of tell us what tongue and lip ties are for those who don't know what that means, and then how you got into that.
Okay, totally. So tongue and lip ties are apparently at this point in time, they're kind of a buzzword, right? It's something that I feel like a lot of people are hearing about, and there's some curiosity about it and a lot of confusion, probably both of those things at this point. And I think in general, there's a lot of practitioners and not only providers, like dentists and ENTs and pediatricians and those types of people, but also, patients, moms and babes and dads, everybody's tuned into this a little bit like, wait, what is this? Does it pertain to me? Does it matter? Do I need to know more? And so it's kind of like, it's kind of a topic for sure that's on people's mind a little bit. And I actually got into tongue and lip ties a few years ago at this point. I've been doing them, I want to say it's been 5 years or very close to 5 years. I started a while back, and how I got into it was actually nothing to do with being like a practice builder or anything like that. I got into it because of my first daughter.
Really?
When she was born, we had a really difficult time breastfeeding. It was super rough. And I lived in California at that point. I was finishing up dental school, and we had been to like her pediatrician. We'd been to chiropractors. We'd been to everything, lactation consultants, and everybody would they'd look at her and they'd be like, I don't know, seems fine. She seems like she's doing all the right things, Latch looks okay. And she's gaining weight. So I think it's okay. And I'm like, look, people, something is terribly wrong. Like, I'm in so much pain and this kid is not happy. And like, either I'm broke or she's broke. And that's like, I would just sit and cry to Josh, and like, he was terrified, the poor man. Like,
I bet. And that's a scary thing. A brand new mom, you have no idea. This is the first child. And it's like, is this normal or is this not normal? And I'm not a mom yet, but I imagine myself being exactly in those shoes of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? This can't be normal.
Yeah, right.
And then if it is, why are people having children still? Because there can't be normal. Like, something's going on.
Yes. So that's like exactly where I was. And you get very mixed opinions. Like, some people would tell me like, oh, that's so normal. You just got to kind of toughen up a little bit. And then other people would be like, oh, it never hurt me. It shouldn't hurt at all. And I'm like, what the heck is normal here? Why is this happening? And so I was so confused and frustrated, mostly frustrated. I'm a little bit determined, right? I have like a stubborn personality. And so I had decided I wanted to breastfeed. It was important to me. And it was really, really hard for me to not be able to do it well. Like, when I want to do something, I want to be good at it. And so I don't like not being good at something. Like anybody, most people don't like to do something that they're not that good at. And so I had this meeting with her pediatrician. This was about like 4 months. And I think I had mastitis twice, and I was a mess. And I mean, I was so frustrated. And she was just like, you know what? Here's what you need to know. Some people aren't meant to breastfeed. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, you got to let it go. She's like, have you tried formula? And I'm like, well, no, but I don't, like, what do you mean? And she's like, I think you just got to move on. And I left that appointment like very frustrated, but very much like, all right, well, that's that. Like, this person is smart and they know better and they've checked over everything. And apparently, like, it just can't happen. And so I ended up pumping for about 10 months. And after that, which is a ton of work, and props to all the moms out there who are pumping. You should get gold medals for that every single week that you pump. So
I believe it.
It's so much work. It's such a labor of love.
I'm seriously terrified of doing this. This is one of the main reasons I haven't had a kid, because I think of this and I'm like, calling it breastfeeding feels weird to me. So I've already decided it's going to be called rocket fuel. Like, I'm going to feed my children rocket fuel. That way it feels better and more like strong. Because I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what to call this. Like, it's stressed.
Breast isn't a bad word, Kiera.
It's not a bad
word. Not a bad word.
I just feel like, what am I going to tell my sisters? Like, and then it's like, then my kids, like, what do they say? You hear people, they're like, well, like my kid, I'm feeding them like moo juice, or I'm feeding them like mom juice, or like it's mommy food. I'm like, what the heck am I going to call it? I don't want to think of myself that way. So I've already had this like massive panic of like, okay, this is a serious thing for me. I have a serious stress as to why I haven't had a child, and no joke. My husband and I, because that way my kids, when they're at school, they're going to be like, well, my mom said I was raised on rocket fuel, and that just feels cool. So that's what I'm going to be calling it.
I mean, that part does sound cool. I can respect that. Yeah.
And when my husband and I decided we were in Hawaii. It just recently happened, and we were like on a run, and I was like dying at the end, and I was going to sprint it out. And so I thought it'd be funny. We had just had this conversation on the beach, and then we were running. And so like, as I kicked it in for the last kick of the run, I screamed rocket fuel and took off. And my husband just started laughing so hard. And I'm like, it also could get real weird when they're like, wait, what? So we'll see. So I totally just derailed us a little bit on rocket fuel. But go on. I mean, this is a true thing that I'm stressed about. Like mastitis, I've heard about that. That sounds terrible. Like having to just admit that like your body's a failed body and there's no way for you to feed your child when like, hello, all these like, and then people judge you of like, well, why didn't you take care of your child? And I'm like, just stop. Like, it's me and my baby and I get to make my own choices. Stop judging. If I want to call it rocket fuel, let me call it rocket fuel. Okay. Like,
there you go. You do you. I mean, it's so true. It's so true. And that's all really, really valuable information. I like the rocket fuel. I'm going to probably use that somehow. I don't know how yet. But
right. It just feels strong. Feels strong. Have another baby.
It does feel strong.
And say you're feeding it rocket fuel. Feel solid about it. You've got June right now. Okay. Good. So back on track. So you just left.
We were pumping.
So you were pumping 10 months.
Yeah, we pumped and I healed and she got fat and, life is good. And anyways, fast forward she would have been about like almost 2, something like that. I had moved back. We were back in North Dakota at this point. I was working, and I was actually down in Texas doing some training on a laser that the practice I was at that they had. And over one of the lunches at this training session, this gal I think she was like from North Carolina or something. She was talking about how she loves her laser because she uses it to do tongue and lip tie releases. And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, yeah, I like on infants. And I was like, I was like, literally my mouth was just hanging open. I thought she was just crazy. I'm like, what? You do what to babies? Why? And she was like, so they can feed better. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I've never heard of this. She's like, yeah, son. And she started talking. And anyway, after lunch, I ran out and I called Josh and I was like, send me a picture of Lily's mouth. I was like, I think I figured something out. And Josh, was sure I had lost my mind. And
my wife's a dentist. He wants to look at our daughter's mouth. Like, of course she does.
Yes. Like, show me her tongue, show me her lip. Anyway, so he sent these pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so at that point, I felt like I had kind of like cracked a code, right? Like I felt like I had some answers as to why maybe things didn't work out for us very well. But also like, I also felt like I had like the burden of knowledge a little bit. Like now that I knew this, I felt like I had to do something with it because I knew it and I knew something was there and that it was important. And so it like kind of ate at me a little bit. I tried to ignore it actually. I went home and I was like, well, no, I know that's done. Moving on with life, but I couldn't let it go. So I did more research and I ended up going to some more classes, and I talked to actually a dentist that I worked with when I was in undergrad. His name is Dr. Chris Mast, and he's in Montana, Helena, Montana. And he is such a genius at tongue and lip tie releases. If you don't know of him, you should look him up and you should pay attention to him because he's very talented and he's been doing this for years and years and years and years. And so I was actually fortunate enough to have him as a mentor when I was in undergrad before I was in dental school. And so I called him and I was like, Chris, I think I'm going to do something crazy. I think I want to get into doing tongue and lip tie releases. Like it's eating at me. I feel like I need to do this for people in our area. And I thought he was going to be like, girl, you got to settle down, like take a chill pill. But he was like, go for it. Like do this. Cool. Like we need this. We need more providers. We need people who care about this. And so he really took a lot of time to kind of coach me through it and give me good resources. And so that's how I got into ties. And
so explain exactly what it is. Cause I'm like, okay, so it helps babies latch better. It helps have a better experience with that. But explain like what the baby looks like, how you know if they're a good candidate for it, and like what the process actually is. Because I truly don't even know. I just know when I'm at your office, these adorable babies come in with these parents and we never know if you're actually going to do the procedure or not. It's always like kind of there, kind of not, which I know is very normal. It's not weird about you at all. And then they're in this adorable nursery when they're done and you pop in like a magician. You're like, perfect. Now they're going to be happy. And you give them a cute keychain. That's literally like my experience with this. So I'm like, okay, walk me through the missing gaps because I know you do a great job of it. And that's literally the amount that I know of what a tongue and lip tie is.
I mean, actually, that's all that there is to it. That's it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
YouTube it up, guys.
We'll start at the beginning. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I see a lot of babies who are, I mean, at this point, right? I've been doing this for about 5 years in my area and I don't live in a big area. So it's like people know people. And so,
don't let her fool you. People drive down from Canada to see her. Like that is not an exaggeration. They drive all over to see you. So this is kind of a big deal. Like, oh, we don't live in a big area. No, but Canada freaking drives to you. So kind of a big deal.
Well, okay. Anyway, but yeah, so people like I have some people in town here, like lactation consultants and chiropractors and some pediatricians that are basically, you know, they refer people to me if they think that there could be a tie. So I do see a lot of babies that we're pretty sure that they're probably tied because they've been looked at by somebody else and they've been sent over to my office. So anyways, first, but you don't have to be referred to me. You can just come in and have it peeked at. Anyway, so what we do is I usually start by explaining what a tongue and lip tie is, like why we care about them and how they pertain to feeding. And
so pretend I'm a mom who comes in, I've got my baby. What would you say to me of what this tongue and lip tie is?
Sure. So, so this is what I would
This
say.
could become a real life example. Give me a few more months if I ever have a baby. Then I'm like, wait, Brielle, tell me what to do.
Listen to this back, okay?
I will. Hang on, Jason. I did a recording with Brielle. Find it.
Perfect. Yeah. So, in order for breastfeeding to happen, and not just breastfeeding, so bottle feeding and breastfeeding are totally interchangeable, as a bottle is made to mimic a breast. So, same idea. You can use either one. Works the same way. I don't care what you do. It doesn't hurt my feelings either way. Fed is best. But by out of habit, I end up saying breastfeeding a lot because a lot of the babies I see are breastfed.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, both babies I saw today are bottle fed. So who knows, right? So in order for feeding to happen the most efficient and effective way possible, there's 2 seals that have to be created. And it's up to baby to create both of those seals, unfortunately, because sometimes we wish we could do it for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the first seal that we need is lips to the breast or lips to the bottle. And the way that happens the best way is if that top lip is flipping up and out and the bottom lip is doing the same. That is called flanging. And the reason we want that is it allows the baby to take in the most amount of breast tissue possible and create a seal around the outside.
Got it.
And when they're able to do that, they have what's called a deep latch. And a deep latch is really important to successful feeding, right? It's where the magic happens. It's when milk transfer becomes really efficient. It's when baby's able to keep the milk in and the air out. And it feels generally pretty good for mom. There's not a lot of pain there. But when babies have a lip tie, or if their upper lip is connected too tightly to their upper jaw, oftentimes, they can't do that full range of motion movement of getting that lip up and out. So they might initially get that deeper latch, but oftentimes if they tuck that lip under or let it kind of smash against their face, they break that seal and they end up sliding down to the end of the breast. And when that happens, we have what's called a shallow latch. And a shallow latch is where all the not good things happen, right? So like milk transfer is not efficient. Baby is often pulling in extra air or leaking milk. There's lots of like unlatching and relatching. So it gets like sloppy and messy and no good.
Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, right now is the time to get your operations manual done. I just did a podcast, Operations Manual 2.0. Be sure to listen to that. And if you're like me, sometimes that task can feel daunting, which is why the coaching team, the Dental A Team coaching team, put together, you got it, Wednesday workshop for the next 4 weeks, starting on April 15th. We'll be running these at 12 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday workshop, where we're getting your operations manual done. We're taking you through step by step to ensure within 4 weeks, you actually get that operations manual done with accountability, with traction, and with ease. So be sure to join us. It's free for all. So there is no reason you shouldn't join us and get that operations manual done. Wednesday workshops every Wednesday starting on April 15th, running through May 6th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Pop on over to thedentalateam.com/strategy to join our webinar series. Can't wait to see you guys there on Workshop Wednesday.
So that's the first seal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second seal that we need happens in the back of the mouth. And for a long time, honestly, like way back in the day when midwives were delivering a lot of our babies, there was a time when we thought milk was coming out of the breast by compression. We thought baby was like smashing the breast and milk shot out.
Mm-hmm.
But we're smarter than that now. And we know that milk comes out by suction or a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that happens is that they have to use their tongue as the motor to create the suction or the vacuum in the back of their throat. And it happens with them moving their tongue in this big wave-like motion. Their tongue should be able to reach their palate, press all the way against their palate. And as it kind of rolls back, it's so hard. I use my hands to do this. So it's really hard for me not to be able to show you, but basically like, as it rolls back, it kind of creates negative pressure or a vacuum and it pulls the milk out.
Got it.
And when this is working well, it is highly efficient. Babies can move milk really easily. It's super efficient. They don't get tired while they're eating, comfortable for mom. I mean, all the good things, right?
Right.
Yes. Now, when a baby is tied or if their tongue is connected too tightly to the floor of their mouth, that motion becomes it's restricted, right? They can't get that tongue all the way up to the top of their palate. And so they end up trying to create suctions and seals with whatever's available. Usually it's like mom's nipple or something that doesn't create a great suction or seal. And so we see a breakdown in that system really quickly. So feeding becomes really hard. Mom gets in a lot of pain. She's getting beat up and things just don't work well. So that's kind of how tongue and lip ties can play into like a normally pretty sound system of breastfeeding.
So what did Lily have, your daughter? Did she have both? What was her issue as to why it was such an uncomfortable experience for you guys?
Yeah, so she had both. Yeah.
She did.
And often tongue and lip ties come together, right? Almost always they come together. They can, there are some times where I've seen a tongue tie without a lip tie. I don't know if I've ever seen a lip tie without a tongue tie.
Got it. Okay.
So almost always if there's a tongue tie, like that one's almost always there, but the lip tie may be the one that's there or not. I don't know. Usually they're both there.
And we're not talking about, because like you see some kids where like the tip of their tongue is attached. It's not even there. It could be further back and it's just too tightly attached. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's I think where some of the confusion comes from, because I mean, if you would have asked me 10 years ago what a tongue tie is, I'd be like, oh, isn't that like, I've seen like my third cousin, she had like her tongue, she couldn't stick it out. It's like, she had this weird thing. It like didn't even move. Yes, that is a tongue tie. And that is actually known as a classic tongue tie or a class 1 tongue tie. So we have a couple different classifications for tongue and lip ties, depending on whose you follow, which is a whole nother topic. But most of them break them into 4 classifications. So the classic tongue tie is a class 1 tongue tie, meaning tip of the tongue to the back of the mandible. And then they step backwards from there. So like class 2 would be the tip of the tongue moves freely, but before the midline of the tongue, it's still connected to the floor of the mouth. This is hard to explain without pictures.
This is so good because I'm like envisioning, I'm like, okay, got it. So it moves back a little bit. It's still tight right there.
You got it. Okay. And then class 3 moves a little bit further. So the front half of the tongue moves pretty freely, but there's still a connection right behind the midline of the tongue to the floor of the mouth. And then class 4 is where it's buried under the mucosa, kind of deep into the middle of the tongue. There's still a connection tethering the middle of the tongue to the floor of the mouth, right?
Interesting.
And 3 and 4 are known as posterior tongue ties. And 1 and 2 are known as anterior tongue ties or further forward, right? So that's how we break down tongue ties. And unlike like a cancer or something like that, where we talked about those on a 1 to 4 scale, 1 being less severe, 4 being more severe, right? If you have stage 4 cancer, we know it's more severe than stage 1 cancer. That's not the same with tongue and lip ties, even though it's often thought of like that. So sometimes you'll hear somebody say like, oh, well, it's only a class 2 tongue tie, so that must be pretty good, right? It's not so bad as like a class 4. And it's not necessarily like that. So severity for tongue and lip ties is not based on like the grade that they're given. Severity is based on symptoms. The classifications are just there to describe the location or the anatomy. Does that make sense?
It does. Basically, if I'm understanding, I like to repeat this back so other people can understand as well. And I also make sure I got it. It's not like stage 4 or class 4 is worse than a class 1. It really sounds like that's just how you are identifying what type of class they're in. And then really if it's good or like if it's less severe or more severe is depending upon the mobility of it and what the symptoms are from the patient. Did I understand that?
You got it. You got it. Perfect. Yeah. So we use the classifications just to basically communicate where it's located or what the anatomy of that person's mouth looks like. And then the severity is decided upon by the symptoms that the patient presents with, but also the mom. So mom's symptoms matter. And so the more symptoms that mom has, they are counted towards the severity of the tie.
Interesting. I would never guess that. Okay. So I'm guessing then what you would do is you would check with mom what symptoms mom's having, and then also look in baby's mouth to see what mobility and class the baby has to determine what type of treatment you do. Is that how you diagnose it? I'm guessing. I'm no doctor over here. Just guessing.
No, you're doing a good job. Yeah. So before we chat, even or bring them back, they've already filled out paperwork. So I have a really good idea of what mom's symptoms are and what baby's symptoms are. But we certainly talk about that during our exam as well. But yeah, at that point, after we're on the same page, like as to what in the world a tongue and lip tie is, because honestly, a lot of people don't know either. They're just like, I don't know. I was just told like there might be a tie here. We're having troubles feeding. We're just told to like come here and do something with it. We don't even know what we're doing here.
Right. No, exactly.
So I mean, I like to start by like getting us on the same page so that they know like, how this relates to what's going on, and we have a good idea of what we're talking about so we can communicate a little bit easier. So then we would do the exam where we look in baby's mouth, kind of decide from there if there's restriction present. I like to show moms and dads while we're doing the exam what I see so that they can see it with me. We do take photos during these exams just so that if they ever want them, they can have them, because it's hard for parents to get in these tiny mouths. So we do take photos while we're there. And then also for insurances, if we would need them, we have them.
Sure.
And then we go over options. We kind of decide if it's something that if there is restriction there, what they want to do with it. If we want to have it released, if we want to do something like that. Some parents choose not to, and I tell them that that's okay.
Right.
I say, this is your choice, and there are two options. And one option is the option to do absolutely nothing, to say, I get it, there's some restriction here. We're gonna try some things first, and if we have to do this at some point, we will. We know that it's there, and that's okay. Like you can choose that option. The other option is the do something option, and that just means that they're ready to open these areas up, try and give the baby better range of motion in hopes that function improves and you can move forward.
Mm-hmm. And to release those, that's where you use the laser. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I do use a laser to do this procedure. It is certainly not the only way the procedure can be done. Scissors and scalpel are the traditional methods of doing this procedure, and they work very, very well. There's not a superior tool to do it with. I think it's whatever feels comfortable in your hands. And for me, a laser feels very comfortable because I've used it for years for other types of dentistry, right? And so for me, that feels very natural. I do like that lasers sterilize and cauterize, and they have those properties which are pretty nice. So for me, that's what I use.
So I'm gonna go into this even more, because next time I'm in your office, I'm gonna come watch one of these, because I see them on your schedule all the time, and
the time. I should count how many I did this week. It was wild.
I literally. So this is how my experience is. They come in. One, I didn't even know they filled out a questionnaire. So high five me. I didn't even know that happened. Two, you guys, I pay attention to systems and flows, and not the the nitty gritties of these details, which is why I love this podcast so much.
Sure, they have their own separate intake for.
I believe you on every level. Your girls are just good at it. They just do it, and I don't even see it happen. So then what I see happen is mom, dad, baby, or mom, whoever goes back with you, they go to the room. Then I see mom go to the little waiting area, the nursery that you've made that's so stinking cute. You actually have an area that I've begged you to turn into an op. That's not an op. It's the nursery. And I see why now.
It's true.
And then I just see Brielle walk in with this cute swaddled baby. When the baby's all done, give them to mom. They sit in there, door closes that says feeding in progress. And then you check on them again to make sure everything worked out. I just always see you. And it's almost like you're a delivery nurse. Here's your baby wrapped and swaddled, and here you go. So,
well, that was my backup plan. If I didn't get into dentistry, I've always had this calling to OB, right? Mom baby stuff, it's my jam. So
hang on.
I feel
while she says that, you guys, you have to remember she had a baby, and what was it? June was a week old, and you have her strapped on you. She's with you, and you're doing dentistry.
Yeah. Yeah.
When she said, she's
so
this is her calling. This is your thing.
It's so cool. I've found this really crazy way that I get to kind of do a little bit of both. I see, this week I just counted, I counted back. I saw 9 babies this week.
It's insane.
Worked into my schedule. So, I get to see a lot of infants. It's fun.
They're so cute when they come into the office too. So as an added perk of adding this to your practice, you get these cute babies in there. Okay. So you send mom out of the room, and then what happens in there? What do you guys do?
Yeah. So we talked through this all before with the parents. I am probably an over informer. I mean, not in a gruesome way or something like that, but I like parents to very much so know everything that's going to happen, so that there's not, I think sometimes the mystery can be the scary part. It's where fear comes from. So I'm not okay, it's time for you to go, and we'll see you when we see you. It's
you'll see when I wrap this baby to you.
Exactly. It's very much this is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to walk you up front. I'm going to come back. I'm going to pick up, little so-and-so. We'll walk back, get them swaddled. We put little laser goggles on them to protect their eyes, which is so silly, by the way, because I have never, in the thousands of babies I've released, seen a child with their eyes open in this procedure. But you know what, we'll follow the guidelines. So they wear the laser goggles. And I tell them we put a compounded topical numbing gel on any area that's going to be released. We do not use any benzocaine because it's contraindicated in children under 2. So that's not a concern, or they don't need to worry about that. I tell them we try and be really quick and efficient with our time because we know it's not fun for mom to be away from babe. And it's also not super fun for the kids because it's, they got my big fingers in their mouth and weird people around them. So we try and be pretty quick with the actual release procedure. We're going to take post-op pictures. So as soon as we're done, we're going to go ahead and take pictures of any areas that were released. And then we're going to immediately bring babe back to mom so that she can feed babe, calm down. If they want to feed, great. If they don't want to feed, then go ahead and just take time to love on them a little bit. So that's that.
And I really see this. So it's always like scheduled as a consult. And then if you do the treatment, it's there. So it's always like side booked is how I see it in your schedule, consult. And then it'll be in that room of where you'll release. And then there's always the time for mom afterwards with the baby. So that's super interesting, Brielle. And I love your story. I love how you went through the whole process. I know some people are curious of how to bill this out. And I know we talked about kind of like overall, how does this even work? Is it a dental procedure? Is it a medical procedure? How does the billing even work for these procedures?
Yeah, so I think that is a barrier to entry for this procedure. I think because that part gets confusing for providers. Like, wait, is this all out of pocket? Do I bill dental insurance for this? Do I bill medical? I don't know how to bill medical. Should I try and bill medical? Like, what the heck am I doing?
Right.
And the answer is like, it's kind of all those things. So sometimes it ends up being, we kind of prep everybody that this procedure sometimes ends up being completely out of pocket. So worst case scenario, we always give them the out of pocket fee for it.
Which is what's like a range for a tongue and lip tie?
So it depends on providers. I've heard anywhere for a single tie. I mean, some people will charge as little as like $200 and some people are up to like $700. So per tie. So I don't know. There's like a whole range of what people charge.
Okay. So 200 to 700 is a huge range.
Sure.
So like go 500 guys, like 400, 500, whatever you want to do. You check your area.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so we submit to dental and we have oftentimes people ask us to submit to their medical as well. And we're getting better at that. Actually, my front office has gotten rather crafty with that. So that's pretty cool as to how to submit to medical. And I've written a couple of narratives that we use, basically explaining what the procedure is, why it's really important, citing I think I have 4 really good studies in there that talk about its efficacy and the science that backs it. And then also basically telling the insurance companies exactly what they want to hear, which is why it will save them money in the long run, why
smart.
Breastfeeding saves them money. So we submit that with our claims to try and help push those through. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Sure, of course. That's insurance. That's the whole insurance scheme. So then do your patients pay you out of pocket and then if it's paid, it's reimbursed, or do they bill on their behalf and it's they payment to the patient? What do you recommend as far as billing it that way?
Yeah, so we will, some people go as far as to try and get like a pre-approval before they have the procedure done. And if they have a pre-approval, like if they have gotten a verbal and they have like a confirmation, number from a conversation they had with somebody, we'll submit for that one and just collect for the other one. But typically we're going to collect up front and then we reimburse whatever we get for coverage on insurance.
Gotcha. Very cool. I love that. Okay. So I just asked you so many questions. I feel like I understand tongue and lip ties, what they are, how it's done. Like, this is good, you guys. Again, I think one of my favorite things that you do, and this is just Brielle, guys, you think of the details on everything. And I even still have it. You gave me a keychain because I remember I told you one time and I was like, you got this. And you're like, that's actually what I tell my moms. And you have the cutest little keychain that you give them that says you got this with your logo on it. And I think it's adorable that you give that to your mom. So
yeah, I do, because you know what? I see myself in these moms. I mean, in the 9 moms I saw this week, I see myself when I was so frustrated with Lily, like 7 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Like, these moms come to me when they're exhausted. Like, they haven't slept in days. They're at their wits' end. They have this new baby, anywhere from like a week old to, I don't know, maybe a couple months old. Who knows? Like, they're mostly pretty small. And they're exhausted. Like, they look so defeated as mothers. And I'll speak for myself here. As a mom, I felt like my one job for this baby was to feed it, like to keep it
alive.
fed,
Yeah.
and to keep it
alive.
fed,
Yeah.
and to keep it alive. And like, I felt like I was failing her. Like I couldn't do it. Like I was not doing a good job at this. And it's really discouraging to have that happen like right away. Like that's the one first thing you're like ready to do. And you're like, why can't I do this? Why am I not good at this right now? And so I think I see these moms at like this really broken, tough spot. Like I see them when they're feeling frustrated and exhausted and discouraged and embarrassed. A lot of people are really embarrassed. They're like, I don't know, I can't do this. My grandma did it. My mom did it. They all said this should be fine. I should be, why can't I do this? And so I think it's important to me. I do have little things like that. I do have keychains for them, and I have other little things in there. Basically just like, it's a team effort, and you're not failing, and you got this. Like this is a journey, and you're on the right path, and keep going. Like you're doing well. So.
I love it so much, because I think those little things, I imagine the mom guilt. Again, I'm not a mom, but I imagine that mom guilt being excessive, and just the little gesture of like, you've got this, and you're not a failure, and it's okay. Like this is pretty common. So yeah. Brielle, I love so much of what you do. How do you market this at all? Is it that you went and talked to lactation specialists and pediatricians and that was kind of it? Or is it just that friends of friends of friends tell each other? Did you ever do any marketing for it? Or how did you even kick that off? If someone's even thinking of doing this, what did you do?
Right. So I think my story is maybe unique in the sense that I started doing this like 5 years ago, which doesn't sound like a long time, but even 5 years ago, this was not really talked about
first
a whole
to market.
lot. Yeah. And so I actually had people coming to me asking me to release their children before I was ready to. I had like started reading into it and started like doing some training on it. And this mom, and she's still a patient of mine. I still see her son. I just saw him 2 weeks ago. He's now 5. And she'd come to me and she said, I need you to release my kid. I think he has a tie. And she was like, I looked it up and I saw that you have a laser. And I was like, well, I do have a laser, but I was like, I can't do that. And I was like, I don't even know how to do it. I was just like, I don't know what to do. And she was like, take my kid and just do it. And I was like, what? Like, are you crazy? And she basically like threw her child at me, and she was not leaving unless I released it. And I was like, okay.
That was desperation. So she was at her wit's end. You would have done the same thing had you known about this. So you can empathize.
So I called Dr. Mast. Yeah, I called Chris Mast, and I was like, Chris, I don't know what to do. This lady's saying I have to release her kid. She's so serious about it. She needs this. Like, should I do it? And he's like, yes, you know what you're doing. You need to do this. He's like, you know exactly what to do. Go do it. Like, just do it. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, I did that release, and the mom was like wildly happy. She was just sobbing. She fed him right afterwards, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is what we needed. Like, it already feels better. Like, this is fabulous. So not that everybody's going to have that experience if they decide to start
Put it on your website, tell people you have a laser and that you love babies.
Yeah. No. So I think the best way to do it, if you're wanting to get into this, and now it is a little bit more talked about, and more likely than not, there's somebody within, probably a 40-mile radius that is doing this procedure around you. It would be to make connections with those people in the community that have these first touches with these moms early on. So like lactation consultants and pediatricians and chiropractors, all those people they're really doulas and midwives, those types of people are really good people to, communicate with them what you're doing, and that you'd like to help, and you're offering your resources, maybe do free screenings at some mom baby events, things like that. I think those would be good ways to kind of integrate yourself.
Mm-hmm. So cool, Brielle. I love this. And you guys, just so you know, Summer Casmel and I, you guys have heard her on the podcast. Summer and I do an event called Women Dentist Connect, and that's for all women dentists, associates, treatment coordinators, office managers, schedulers, billers, you name it. Any female. We wanted to create a space where females get together and we really talk business. We learn different things. But what's super rad about our event, it's on November 6th and 7th in Arizona this year. And You guys, Brielle's coming and she's going to speak about tongue and lip ties. So if you loved this podcast, if you want to meet Brielle in person, which that's why I would come, and also to, but really, I'm just excited that I convinced her to come because I just love hanging out with Brielle. She's one of my best friends and I love our time together. But she's also brilliant, as you can see. So she's working on this. I know she's been studying tongue and lip ties and she's phenomenal. I mean, nine babies this week alone she's doing. So I think it's going to be awesome. You're going to be speaking at Women Dentist Connect. So be sure to come meet Brielle there, learn more about tongue and lip ties.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I mean, this is going to be cool. It'll give us a better opportunity to dive deeper into some of these things. I know like podcasts are super educational, but there always is that like moment where you have questions and you're like, but I can't ask you what I want to ask you right now.
Exactly.
And so that's the cool thing about a conference is it can be a little bit more interactive. And obviously I can show you my hand motions that I'm trying to do, pictures and videos and like the nitty gritty, how it actually happens and the stuff that you want to know. So totally. I'm super pumped.
Oh, I'm so excited. She literally texted me like right before we got on the podcast saying, yes, I'm in for WDC. And I said, sweet, I'm talking about it on the podcast because we were going to do tongue and lip ties regardless. And then she's also generous to come and share her time and her talents with us at WDC. So make sure you hop on over to womendentistconnect.com. We've got tickets on sale right now. So be sure to grab it. That's for doctors and team members. Feel free to come. Male doctors, send your female team members. It's a really awesome event. We got raving reviews last year of the knowledge and the education we put. And Summer and I just love to empower women to rise to higher heights, which is why we created Women Dentist Connect. But it's not just for dentists, it's for all team members. So be sure to bring your team, hop on over there. And Brielle, gosh, you crushed it today. This was so fun. I loved it. I was literally just like, okay, tell me more. How does this process work out? So as always, thank you.
There's so much more. This is fun stuff. This is my passion project, right? This is my baby. Talking ties. We could do this all day.
I love it. I love it so much. And in the whole 2 years I've known you, I just have seen from like mom comes in, they go back and see you, and then out pops midwife Brielle delivering the baby back. Like this is how my whole world has been of you. And so
it's very different than that, but maybe same. Interesting analogy.
It is, right? I'm like, here's my nurse Brielle handing back the baby. So next time I'm there, I think I see you guys in June. I'm definitely going to watch this from start to finish because I guarantee you there will be a baby on that. There always is. So thanks for sharing this. Thanks for being on the podcast and for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was super fun.
Of course. All right, guys, Dr. Brielle Renz with Tongue and Lip Ties. And thank you all for listening. And I'll catch you next time on the Dental A Team Podcast.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.